In the last video, we created the build document subprocedure, which created the output document and then put all of the imported documents into it inside different sections. In this final video, we'll style the document, the output document that is, and put a table of contents at the start of it. So let's scroll down to the subprocedure that we created earlier, and let's begin by just reviewing what we need to do. So the first thing is we want to loop through all the sections within the document. And then inside the loop, we want to set the first paragraph of each section to heading 1. We then want to loop through the remaining paragraphs and inside that loop we want to try and recognize all subheadings, and we'll discuss when we come to this techniques that we can use to recognize subheadings. Whenever we find a subheading, we set it to heading 2. Once we've completed our 2 loops, we then want to go to the start of the document and create a table of contents. So as always, let's begin by defining the variables that we'll be using. Let's use numeric variables for looping, so these will be 4 next loops. And then let's create a couple of range variables to use inside the loops for formatting the headings and subheadings. So dim RNG heading 1 as range, dim RNG heading 2 as range. So let's begin our first loop using the I variable. So this will be for I equals 1 to m.new .sections.count, and let's close this at the end, which will be down here. Next I. Now inside the loop we'll need to place each first paragraph inside the appropriate variable. So as we loop through the sections, we can use the I counter to pick up each section. And then to pick up the first paragraph, we use .range.paragraphs 1 and again .range. Then we can simply say RNG heading 1 .style equals heading 1. Now we need to loop through the remaining paragraphs, so of course here we're starting the count at 2. So for j equals 2 to m.new .sections I .range .paragraphs .count, and again let's close this loop. Next to j. So we can now place each of the paragraphs into our appropriate variable, which is RNG heading 2. So set RNG heading 2 equal to m.new .sections I .range .paragraphs j .range. Then we need to come up with a test which will tell us whether this paragraph is likely to be a heading. So if we think about the attributes of paragraphs, they're usually one line or less. Let's say, for example, we set our threshold to 75 characters. And the other thing we can do is to avoid treating list items, which are also very often less than one line, as headings. And one way to do that might be to say that any paragraph that starts with a number should not be treated as a heading. So I'm going to create a constant to hold the 75 characters rather than hard coding it. So that's going to be const int head characters, head cars, as long, and I'm going to set that equal to 75. So now we can just do a quick test. First of all, we'll test the number of characters. So we'll use the len function, just as you would when you work in Excel worksheets. So if the length of RNG heading 2 dot text is less than or equal to int head cars, and let's just break the line, space underscore. If the paragraph doesn't start with a number, so we can use the isNumeric function for that. So to pick up the first character, we use left, again just as you would in a worksheet. RNG heading 2.text, and the number of characters we want is 1. Close left, close isNumeric, equals false, which indicates that the paragraph doesn't start with a number. Then and only then we set the style. RNG heading 2 dot style equals heading 2. And if. And then finally we create the table of contents. We can do this by using the table of contents.add method, and when you do this you get to specify exactly where the table of contents is inserted. So tables of contents is a property of the document object, so we start with m.new.tables of contents .add, and then the range can be m.new.sections1.range. Then we want a heading for our table of contents. Let's just use the word contents. So to insert this above the table of contents, we say m.new.range.insert before, and the text will simply be the word contents followed by a carriage return, ampersand bbcrlf. And finally, let's set the style of that heading to heading 1. And that's it. So we've gone through the document which we created in the first of our 2 sub-procedures, and we've just looped through all the sections, taking the first paragraph and making it heading 1, then looping through all the remaining paragraphs, doing a quick test, and providing the test is successful, converting what seems to be a heading to a subheading or heading to style. So let's save our changes and just go into the module and run our macro to test it. So I'm going to delete the 2 duplications and click Create Document. So I'm just going to debug, and I made a simple error here. I haven't put a space for heading 1. So I'll just go back into my code and insert that space. here's the document that we produced. So you'll see it's got the text in there, but it crashed before it could do the styling. So let's try that again. I have put a space on heading 2, so that should be fine, and heading 1 here is fine as well. So let's go back to our macro and run. So that's better. Here's our heading for the table of contents, and there's the table of contents. The document proper starts, and we can see we've got our heading 1, and here's a heading 2, and there's our page number at the bottom. So that all seems to be working. So that was the last in this series of exercises. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've had the stamina to go from start to finish, thanks very much for your time and trouble, and I hope you found it useful.